to the Sugar and Spikes podcast, a show for everyone trying to navigate business and life without losing their minds. I'm Dez, a coach and consultant who is entirely overeducated, habitually overdressed, and obnoxiously honest.
And I'm Tammy. I'm a psychologist. Was I supposed to say more?
You know what? Enough said. We talk about mindset, mental health, and making it all work in the big, bad business world.
One quick note. We may be mental health professionals, but we're not your mental health professionals.
So, enjoy the show. But he asked me, he was like, did you check the weather? And I was like, no, what's it going to be? And he was like, hold on. And I was like, Stormy Daniels. And he was like, yep.
God.
So I just can't get away from it. But on the plus side, I did get my upgrade, which means
nice.
Mom is in a lay flat on the way down.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Dean and back and coach.
Currently, yes.
I knew it. You'll be like, see ya.
I have to call. So the shitty thing is, because I'm a terrible person, is the way that auto upgrades work is you can do it if you're flying with someone.
Yeah.
On the same record locator number, but it's dependent on availability.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't know what the availability was going to be like for this flight, so I booked our tickets separately, so I would be on my own record locator number. Because, like, if I'm going to get the upgrade, it's probably just going to be, like, by the skin of my teeth. But now I have the upgrade, and I can see the first class, like, seating chart.
Yeah.
And there are so many open, so I have to call and be like, hey, my husband's flying with me. Can I get him on my record locator number, please?
Okay.
That is the story of my travels. Should we actually start talking?
Yes, we can start talking.
All right. Welcome. Welcome. Actually, I think we're leaving all of my travel plans in.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
Because it's that type of day. But
something different.
Yeah. So as we kind of venture into real podcasting life,
Kind of goes with
it goes with consideration.
You're having consideration for your husband.
Yes.
Upgrading him so he doesn't have to suffer and coach while you're asleep.
So the funniest thing out of all of this is I looked at my Facebook memories, and today, like, we're having this conversation today, but 365 days ago, I posted on Facebook, I was like, if you were flying transatlantic and had an upgrade, would you leave your partner behind and coach? I was like, so apparently, this is a common theme. Well, because I was like
it's come up before.
I was planning the Ireland trip.
Yep.
So, you know. I'm a loving and giving person.
You are.
But consideration. Okay. So, fun story.
Okay.
Well, okay. So for the actual podcast.
Yeah.
For listeners that actually want that want to know things beyond
your
my travel plans. Actually, that gets into this card.
Yeah.
The gods have smiled upon us.
Yes.
And given us a new deck of affirmator cards.
Yes.
And I know we said we were going to do cards often, if at all anymore.
But this is the first time.
This is the first time in a minute, and my dog is freaking out. Buddy. He's very much against it.
Oh my goodness. It's just that kind of day.
He did it on the other podcast too.
Did he?
Yeah. The gods have smiled upon us. We have new affirmator cards, even though we said we probably weren't going to be doing much this first time in a minute. And these are so on point.
I know. They're really good.
For one, we are huge fans of the affirmator.
I like them.
I think they're fun. They're good things to think about, different perspectives. Mm-hmm. These ones are affirmators at work.
Yes.
It's almost like someone's been spying on me and Tammy.
I know.
And put us into... It's the podcast.
It's the new computer.
It's the podcast and the new computer. And put us into card form with cute animals.
It's true.
So the other best part about all of this is we were supposed to record earlier, and then she came over and we looked at each other and we were like, what are we recording? I thought we had topics and none of us could think of it. And then we realized that the cards had been delivered. But if we had tried to record earlier, we would have been screwed, and you wouldn't have had this gem of a podcast.
That's true.
So God's smiling all of the smiles down upon us
All of
today.
them.
Okay, so consideration or modesty first?
Do modesty first.
Okay, so modesty. I think. Okay, so the card has a sloth and it says my bad. I'll post it on the
Show notes?
Instagram.
Oh, on the Instagram?
On
Okay.
the Instagram.
Okay.
I'm willing to be wrong. I'm willing to not know all the answers. I'm even willing to admit to my boss that I screwed up. Behind all this humility is the me that knows it's better to be modest than a die-hard, try-hard know-it-all. Isn't that mature and gracious of me? You're welcome. So,
Is that
both Tammy and I had like visceral like gut responses when I read the title.
Yeah.
Like when I saw the title,
Yeah.
my immediate thought was modesty's bullshit.
Yeah.
Tammy, what was your thought?
Like,
I saw your face. I was like,
it was a
yeah.
face. Yeah. Nah, I don't.
But like reading the paragraph,
That's,
I wouldn't call it modesty.
See, same. I was like, oh, well, now that you read it, that's not how I know.
But what word would we put on it?
It's like taking responsibility for your
Yeah.
part, right?
Yeah, like owning your shit.
Yeah. Like you, dude.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying I screwed up.
Mm-mm.
If you did.
Yeah, but I like when I hear of modesty, I think like if you present something to your bosses and it's good and they're like, "Oh my god, that's so good." Modesty to me would be like, "Oh no, I'm just doing my job, like whatever."
Yeah.
It's not you present
owning it,
Yeah,
right?
not owning the fact that you like messed up.
Yeah.
Like I think those are two very different things.
They are very
You
different
know?
things. Because, like, what does it say about a person when clearly they made a mistake and they're like, I didn't make a mistake, you made a mistake.
Oh
or
my
I did it
God.
because of this reason. Excuse.
Mhm.
And you're like, wait a minute. Like, how did we get down this road? You know, I think you have to be able to own the good and the bad, the mistakes and the successes.
Mhm.
Or else, how do you ever grow?
Yeah. I agree.
I don't know.
And I think, yeah, I would say this card should be called like responsibility or
Yeah.
like the sloth shirt, like my bad.
Or like own it.
Yeah, because I think honestly, for most people, especially for most women, I'm gonna make sweeping generalizations right
Okay.
now. We need less modesty in the workplace. Like we need to also own it and own our accomplishments.
Right.
Like you turn in that presentation and people are like, that's good. Thanks. I had a good time with it. Thanks. It was a fun challenge. Thanks.
I worked really hard on that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's a sentence. Like just like no is a sentence, thanks is a sentence.
Thanks. I'm glad you connected with it.
Uh-huh.
Thanks. Yep.
Or like, thanks. Yeah, did you see that one part? It was really cool. Like I've done that and it goes over fine. You know? So I would say taking ownership of mistakes is essential. Like no one likes it when someone's looking for scapegoat. No one looks
When they're shifting blame,
no one likes a finger pointer.
Right?
Like no. We get enough of that just in general. And that's a really good moment to say, you know, that was my mistake. I've learned X, Y, and Z. Here's what I'll do next time.
Exactly.
Like, do you know how much you would stand out if you did that
Yeah.
from a mess up versus, okay, well, actually, it was Jim Bob in the mailroom,
Right.
you know? So, but like along those lines, what about your card?
My card. My card says consideration. I'm a considerate person, and my new goal is radical conscientiousness. From now on, I'll leave every space tidier than I found it. I'll find small ways to support a teammate even if they didn't ask for it. And I will eat the leftover pumpernickel bagel even though I wasn't the one that ordered it.
So, talk me through your response to that card because listening to that, I had the reverse reaction where I was like, I heard the title and I was like, okay, that's interesting. But then the more you read it, the more I was like, that just sounds like you're someone's like walking mat, what door, floor mat, whatever.
So I think all the way up till the bagel part, I was
Yeah.
kind of with it.
Uh-huh.
Like, common spaces are messy in offices, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna do my best to, like, do my part,
That's
right?
true. I don't
I'm gonna
remember
find
office
ways to
life.
support a teammate even when they didn't ask for it. That's great,
Mhm.
right? You're thinking about others, you're
Yeah.
trying to, like, encourage them to do their best, and
Mhm.
especially if you're working on a team where, everybody's being evaluated.
Mhm.
The more you can help others, the more you're going to help yourself if
Yeah.
you want to think about it that way, and the
Mhm.
the more success your team's going to have. So I'm with it all the way up till there. And then it's like, well, I'll eat the thing that no one else wanted, even though I wasn't the one that ordered it and somebody else messed up, but I'll just keep my mouth shut to keep the peace.
Yeah.
And I think there might be times for that.
I mean, there are times where, especially if you're like working hourly or doing like a non-traditional job, there are times, even in a traditional job, there are times where things need to get done that no one wants to do.
Right. And so, like, okay, you can do them.
Mhm.
Maybe not all the time,
Mhm.
but you can be that first one to step up and be like, hey, everybody, lead by example. I'm
Exactly.
doing my part. Let's everybody do
Yeah.
theirs.
And I think that's where rotation and like owning what you do really comes into play, because people need to know if you're doing the shitty thing. Like that they need to know if you're doing the job that no one else wants to do, because then when it comes back around, I feel like then you have more space to say I'm not doing it this time and owning it.
Yeah.
Um
Well, being assertive, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And really taking your space.
Hmm.
And I think that, for leaders and stuff, you can lead by example in doing it. So then if other folks are like, well, I really don't want to do it, like you have that space to be like, well, I did it.
Right.
You
Like
know?
that idea of I don't expect people on my team to do things I wouldn't be willing to do
Mhm.
myself. And you show that you kind of embody that and live that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
But that was mine. I mean, I think what it comes kind of down to for me is that, like, sometimes being a good teammate
Mhm.
does mean making some
Yeah.
sacrifices. Um, it doesn't mean making them all the time,
Mhm.
right? So, like, things in moderation.
Mhm.
So there's times to stand up for yourself, and there's times when it's not quite the right time to do that,
Mhm.
right? To kind of like stand on the principle of the thing.
Yeah.
Um, and knowing the difference can be really hard.
Mhm.
Because sometimes I know I've looked back on things and I'm like, oh, yeah, I probably should have just let that go. But here we are. And I
Mhm.
didn't.
Well, and you can also like give space for something. One thing that we often forget is things don't have to happen in the moment. Like you were telling me about a situation that you had
Yeah.
where something happened, and in the moment you did give space and there was a certain level of conscientiousness
Hmm.
for the situation, and you also have plans on addressing it, right?
Yeah. So I think for me, and this is just the way I tend to manage things in meetings and interactions,
Mhm.
if I have a very strong reaction, and I'm not saying this is the right way, so disclaimer.
Mhm.
When I have a very strong reaction, maybe it's because I'm a therapist, I don't know. But my first instinct is to say, that was a really strong reaction.
Mhm.
So you might want to figure out what that is all about.
Yeah.
So I will kind of be quiet in the moment and kind of think about, this was my reaction. This is what I'm thinking. I'll run it by a trusted person,
Mhm.
um, and kind of sort that all out for myself. And then when I've sorted it out and kind of been thoughtful about how I want to respond to it, then I'll address it.
Mhm.
Now that's just my way. There's definitely pros and cons to doing it that way, because I think that there can be times when um speaking in the moment can be more powerful and impactful, and that's just not my way.
Mhm.
Um but that was how I wanted to do it, just because I know that when I'm super emotional about something,
Mhm.
that I don't want to then have to make repairs later, when really if I had just given it a second and considered what I wanted to say, then I could have said it,
Mhm.
and maybe not have to make the situation complicated, especially if it's an emotionally charged issue on both sides.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would agree. I'm kind of the same way where if I have a really strong reaction, but in general, especially in like group meetings and everything, I'm not the one to like speak up. I'm watching, observing, and thinking through things
Yeah.
and waiting until I can like formulate.
Mhm.
And then I pop up like an hour later.
Yeah.
Like everyone I work with knows that chances are I'm not gonna say anything.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, G chat's gonna be blowing up like in 90 minutes. Well, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think just like you and I just like to
We
consider
think things
we think
through.
things through, and not that people who speak up faster don't also think things through. I think they
I
do. It's
admire those
just me
people because
too.
they can think on their feet. Like,
Because
oh.
I'm just like, "Whoa, hang on a
Yeah.
minute. Let me think about this." And I think at times I envy that they can get their point across in such a
Uh-huh.
clear and cohesive way so
Uh-huh.
quickly,
Yeah.
because that is just not possible
It's
for
so
me.
not me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that speaks to knowing your strengths
Yeah.
and making sure others around you know your strengths and that you know your team strengths and how you operate.
Yeah, and I think, like even just thinking about the cards, like one of the ways that I do practice consideration is that if I have to bring up something where I'm very much like a dissenting voice,
Mhm.
that I may talk about it individually with the person
Mhm.
instead of in a group, because um I just think that that shows respect,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm
Mhm.
not trying to shame anyone in front of the group. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't want that to happen to me.
Mhm.
And so I give that respect and consideration to others, because maybe I misunderstood. Maybe it is how they really feel, but we're going to be able to have more of a dialogue about it
Mhm.
if we're talking one on one, because it's less threatening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
All right.
Short and sweet today, huh?
Short and sweet. Let's see.
That's what we got.
Yeah, 15 minutes. Do you want to keep going?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, we're keeping it short and sweet because it's the holidays. We know you guys have things to do.
Mhm.
So go hang out with your family,
Have a
pet your
fun time.
pet your animals, drink the drinks, boozy or non. It's up to you.
Whatever you like, but
Yeah.
just enjoy yourself at this time of
Hot
year.
beverage. All right. We'll talk to you guys in the new year.
Bye, friends.
Bye.